There's a trend towards growing vegetables with flowers because so many gardens today are not big enough to have separate vegetable patches. But of course you can't just plant a row of your carrots in a herbaceous border, because when you dig them out you'll have a great gap. So it's meant looking at growing food in a different, new way, or perhaps more accurately returning to the old ways of the cottage garden, where fruit and vegetables and flowers and herbs were all grown together. It's Alexandra here from the Middle-Sized Garden YouTube channel and blog, and I went to visit the Abbey Physic Community Garden because there are several strands to this new way of growing veg and fruit together. And the Abbey Physic Community Garden has been trying many of them out. The Abbey Physic Community Garden is a garden that's aimed towards training and healing. So it's a sanctuary for visitors, but they also teach gardening for health. And I decided to go along and talk to Suzanne Campbell, Joe Barker and Paul Muddle about how you grow fruit, vegetables and flowers together. The 4 strands of this way of growing is firstly perennial vegetables that you can harvest without having to dig them up. The second one is looking again at ornamental plants and seeing which flowers and leaves can be eaten. The third one is using self-seeders, which just pop up and fill gaps and come to flower. And the fourth one is taking a new look at weeds and understanding that they too have both nutritional and medicinal purposes. Firstly, I asked Suzanne to explain what they were doing at the Abbey Physic. So I gather that here you've got what's now called the perennial veg bed, but that is where you've been experimenting with planting ornamentals, vegetables that look ornamental, and generally sort of, well, dealing with what is now called edimentals. Apparently.
Yes, it's a new bed. We're calling it a community vegetable bed using kind of permaculture design and techniques, but to be able to show people all the different things you can grow that will come up every year. But so this is being purposely put in, designed and installed. We haven't planted it up yet properly, but just all that there's some aqualegia in there, self-seeding flowers that will just self-sow every year. Lots of calendula because you can eat them and make kind of your different balms and things and tinctures with them. So it's not just about what we can eat, it's also all the other things you can do as well as the seed saving, cooking with it, nutritional healthy eating, and maybe touching on the medicinal things you can do with them as well. And they just go beautifully together, vegetables and flowers, because all vegetables will go to flower if you let them seed. But it's a beautiful introduction to some of our members to kind of forage. You can just forage your way around, but Joe's an expert of that one.
Yeah, my name's Joe Barker and I'm a permaculturalist. So I do permaculture, sustainable gardening, which we create systems of gardens that balance, so the pests become part of the gardening team really. The perennial vegetable garden here, there's 3 reasons behind it. We did a design which involved lots of sessions and lots of different parts of the community. The 3 reasons are for the community kitchen, to share the plants and as a demonstration. So we think this is a really good way of growing food, but also a beautiful garden because it is beautiful. It's good for our well-being. The plants, we believe, are nutritionally better than annuals because they're in the ground for longer, so their roots go deeper and they can access more nutrition in the soil. And they're less work, so they don't need lots of inputs of time to get them going. It takes a lot of work in the beginning to get it going, but once it's there, it should stay there indefinitely. I mean, all perennial plants have a life cycle. Asparagus lasts for 20 years, and some things are only a couple of years. Perennial brassicas maybe 5 years. The reason we're doing this is to share the plants, to demonstrate and share. So all of these plants should be easy to propagate, either from cuttings, or some of them are very, like the 3-cornered leek, grow out. And we're not meant to plant that in the wild, but we wouldn't do that anyway. So there is some people have been, oh, you can't share that one because it's so pernicious, but we can for people's gardens, because we want people to be able to access these perennial vegetables. But things that we grow here, like sweet cicely, it produces seeds that can be grown, so we can share the seeds, we can share the new baby plants.
How do you define the term foraging?
That's a good question. So I think of it as harvesting. harvesting the garden, but also for me it's a way of gardening. There's 4 rules with foraging. I've learnt how to eat almost everything. I've been doing it for 35 years. So the 4 rules are to only pick what you're 100% sure of. If you're not sure, then don't. And then where you pick it, because sometimes we might have animals around, so we have to be careful about that. And then we have to pick things where we're allowed to go, which is why foraging on our own gardens is so fantastic. And there are some protected plants, but in my foraging I've never come across any of that. I did check early on when I started teaching foraging, which is one of the things I do. The 5th thing which I've started adding to the rules is to share the knowledge. You know, invite people round and show off your salads or your forage tea. Because the thing is, when we do this, it's so nutritious. If we look at vegetables in a shop, even organic, locally grown things, they've still been sitting there, we don't know how long. But when we eat from our own garden, it's part of our own system, and it might even be tailored to what we're needing in some strange way. Some people think that.
Tell me about what you have to think if you want to start using your garden in this more holistic way.
You've probably already got an edible garden. I mean, we can eat daisies and roses and nettles and dandelions. Most people have those 4 things to start with. So to get curious, if you already know plants, then it's very easy to find out how to eat them, and then having the courage to eat them. I think it's wonderful that earlier we were talking about we're celebrating 30-year anniversary for the community garden here. We're going to be running some sessions about 30 permaculture plants around the garden, but actually we could choose almost any plant, and I couldn't find willowherb, and here we are sitting next to one.
What is rosebay willowherb good for?
So I'm glad you asked that, because it's possibly one of the most important plants in the garden, in that it used to be used for making tea before we had camellia tea, which is the common tea, and it makes a delicious drink that would have been more common than what we know as tea now. Also, we eat the leaves and the flowers. I haven't even told you the best bit. So I do what's called forest gardening and permaculture gardening, and some research in forest gardening by Eric Toysmeyer, who helped write some epic books about this. He did some research in America about the malnutrition amongst the American population, and he found 5 key things, and then he went to look in the food forests for what plants could replace, be nutritious and accessible to people to add to their diets to help the American diet be more nutritious. And rosebay willowherb actually appears in the top 5 as one of the most nutritious plants on the planet in terms of these vitamins and minerals. And it's just like it's one of the most common weeds everywhere.
And what plants are you going to put in the permaculture bed that you're creating here at the Abbey Physic Garden?
So the perennial vegetable bed, so we've got things like sweet cicely in the shady bit, which we've got some in our food forest. It's the most delicious sweet and herb, which is also a native, sort of more north in the country, but it grows really well in this garden. We're going to include lots of alliums, so we've already got quite a few, like 3-cornered leek is a pernicious weed in all over this area. I only think it's a problem because people don't realise we can eat it. Wild garlic, the Egyptian onion, which is it falls over and regrows. So we're going to have a whole border of alliums. Calendula, so there'll be some self-seeders. So the perennial really means perpetual. Lots of different types of perennials, cabbage family, celery family, and unusual things like Caucasian spinach, which I've never grown before, but it's meant to climb for 3 metres in a year, and we're meant to be able to eat the leaves. So once that grows, we'll be able to give the kitchen loads of leaves, and it's meant to be delicious and come back every year. Daylilies is another good one, so lots of flowers. We include hollyhocks. Other flowers we're going to include is mallow, annual mallow, which self-seeds, but also lavatera, which we can eat the leaves all through the winter, and that's really good in soups and stews, because one of the reasons we want to do this garden is for the community kitchen here. It has delicious flowers all through the summer. It's my favourite perennial vegetable actually, and my favourite foraging plant, because mallow family is everywhere, and we can also eat the green seed heads, and they're packed full of protein. We can also make shampoo out of it, and it's got so many other uses. It's supposed to be anti-inflammatory. I'm not a herbalist, but I find these other aspects of the plants really fascinating. Oh yeah, bellflowers, the campanulas are really good to eat. There's lots of other edibles, but these are the ones we're going to have. Dahlias as well. We'll have dahlias for the tubers, but the flowers are also nice in a salad. Yeah, and also great for insects.
I then asked Jo to take me on a very short foraging trip around the Abbey Physic Garden.
What's really nice about eating things like this is the pollen. We don't tend to buy anything in shops that we eat with pollen in, and it's a sort of micronutrient that has benefits for us. Oxeye daisies are delicious, so I just do this. And they're great on a salad, and the young leaves are also really nice before the flowers have appeared.
And you're also saying that you put the pink campion into a salad.
Yeah, the flowers are delicious, and the young leaves. Also great for wildlife, of course. These are 2 native plants. This is a brassica, and it's one of our wild plants, and it's great early spring. The leaves are so good for us, and also the flowers. At this time of year it's gone to seed, so it wouldn't be my top choice. So geraniums are like every garden really needs geraniums. They're just so beautiful, and we can eat the leaves and the flowers. I wouldn't have too many because they've got quite a strong flavour, but again the flowers are gorgeous, sprinkled on top of a salad, and most gardens who've got them, they've got lots of geraniums.
Yeah. Also do foraged teas here
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
So can you just run through a few of the things you make tea out of?
When we run sessions here, we always include some garden forage tea. So recently we've been running perennial vegetable sessions. So we've had things like nettle. Nettle's like a fantastic vegetable. In fact, it's probably more nutritious than any vegetable we grow in the garden, and yet we call it a weed. So nettle goes in if we've got any. We are keeping some patches in our perennial vegetable garden of nettles that we keep cut down, and that way it keeps making new leaves. All the herbs are brilliant, and they all count as perennial vegetables. Lemon balm, rosemary, thyme, lemon verbena, mallow, and sage, olive leaves. Olive's really beneficial as well. It's a tonic leaf. We might have artichoke leaves. I'm just looking around. Willowherb, rose petals. Now's the time we use those. Last year I did a talk around the garden about trees, so we had a tree leaf tea, and that was interesting. So that was apple, olive. Oh, we had elderberries, dried elderberries, and mulberry. Mulberry leaves are edible. The white mulberry's better. Oh, and there's all the weeds as well. The weeds, dandelion, hedge garlic, cleavers. Been making lots of cleavers tea. I have no boundaries where foraging is concerned. I forage everywhere I go. I've probably eaten 20 things on the way here today. So everybody's gardens I go into, along the pathways, in the woods, on the beach, there's food everywhere. Almost everything's edible, and I have a little nibble at things. I'm sure it's why I rarely get ill. I've taken a lot of people foraging over the years. It's the thing I get asked to do the most. And I particularly like taking people foraging in their own gardens, because that's where they are, and it's a way we can engage with the natural system and be part of it, and then we get to look forward to things in the year and become more seasonal, and it's a sort of form of rewilding ourselves. I think it's a wonderful thing to do, and I love taking kids foraging. They're not scared at all. I have to be really careful to make sure they don't eat everything.
And of course, do you have any new gardening techniques with this new method of growing vegetables and flowers together? I asked Paul Muddle, horticultural trainer at the Abbey Physic. So Paul, if somebody came to you and said they want to start combining vegetables, say, and flowers in one bed, what's the first advice you'd give them?
I think whether you're growing ornamentals or edibles, the first advice is always take account of the growing conditions, what kind of soil you have, the soil pH, whether it's a clay soil or a sandy soil, whether you're in shade or in light, so the aspect. So before I put anything in the ground, that would be my first consideration, would be whatever I was growing, whether it was a mixture or one or the other. And then I think usually I would recommend go with the conditions you've got, rather than try and grow plants that are more suited to an acid soil in an alkali soil or vice versa. So yeah, right plant, right condition. Yeah.
And is there any issue over ornamentals and vegetables could they be competing with each other? In other words, if you were to plant a rose and then to plant, say, lettuces and carrots around it, is there any problem that the lettuces might do worse, or the carrots might do worse, or the rose might do worse, or is it not really.
I suppose that would depend. I can imagine that if you, apart from the practical considerations about how you get to the plants when you're going to harvest them, I suppose the other consideration, if it's a particularly vigorous rose plant, for example, there might be an issue of how much sun, it depriving something that's in its kind of immediate sort of understory of sufficient light. So that would be a consideration. I mean, I've only got a small garden, so if I was going to grow a lot of edibles, I think I would address that sort of issue by growing things in pots and maybe not sowing them directly in the soil. But I mean, where I have got roses at home, they're kind of immediately adjacent to an apple tree, both of which I kind of give a feed and top dress at about the same time of year with the same sort of stuff, whether it's muck or compost or whatever it is. I mean, the other thing, as we're talking, the other thing that does occur to me, kind of cut and come again things that are annuals that you could start off in a tray and then plant out amongst your perennials would be things like chard, which are also incredibly colourful and really are highly ornamental. They are an ornamental edible. So that would be a good idea to scatter some chard plants amongst your ornamentals.
And runner beans, I think, were originally imported as an ornamental, and now they're an edible.
Yeah. Yes. And again, yes. So, and I've done that as well. Actually, I think I've got some of those kind of permanent supports for climbing plants rather than just sort of canes. And I have grown runner beans up those alongside things like Ipomoea, which is the kind of ornamental bindweed, and they look quite nice together. So yeah.
Are there any combinations that really wouldn't work, do you think?
Well, I would be hard pressed to think of somewhere to plant potatoes if I had, in my garden, because it's mostly quite well established perennials, I'd be hard pressed to think of anywhere in the beds where I'd want to grow potatoes. But again, that goes back to so we've got potatoes growing here at the Physic Garden, and this year they're all in pots and bags. It's one of those things that it's something that you're always learning. I mean, I didn't know until a couple of weeks ago that you could eat hostas or that you could eat daylilies, both of which I have at home. So maybe get your hostas before the slugs do. Would be one piece of advice. And I douse the hostas in garlic anyway to keep the slugs off. So that might add to their flavour. I don't know.
If you're interested in new ways of gardening, particularly those that support wildlife or biodiversity or the environment, then don't miss this next video coming up about biodiversity in gardening with experts from the Royal Horticultural Society. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.